This will be my talk, and then in this talk, I will talk about how to become a better language learner. One of my passions in life includes language learning, and then technology and personal development. And in fact, my life mission is to inspire actions through these three things. In this talk, I will talk about how to become a better language learner. I just want some feedback that, in fact, this is going live and people can hear me. Let me see. So just wait. I just want one feedback, and then so I'll start in 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, group. Cool. First, I would like to start with some stories and a few experiments. And so basically, let's start with a story from about a few decades ago. There was a study with a group of 4 years old, and then they were given some marshmallows in front of them, and then they were told, if you could wait for 5 minutes, then you can have much more marshmallows. So kids being kids, they like sweets and they like marshmallow. So some of the kids were trying different things to make sure that they can wait for 5 more minutes so that they can have more marshmallows. So what they do, some of them were hiding the eyes with their hands, or they are hiding under the table. Some of them sniff the marshmallow. And so basically, this is quite a famous story, so to keep it short. So basically what happens was that some of the children couldn't resist, and then they just had the marshmallow, and some of the children could, with the various strategies that I talked about. So then the researchers followed the life of these children, and then they found out that when they grew up, the children who could resist and wait 5 minutes were way more successful in their life, in terms of their studies, in terms of their career, in terms of everything really. And so basically, so the idea from this study is that basically willpower leads to success, and more importantly, delayed gratification is very important to success. So delayed gratification, meaning instead of having the pleasure right now, we delay the pleasure later. So for example, if we are learning, let's say, to speak, I don't know, Arabic, and obviously it may be more fun to watch Netflix or to watch YouTube or to watch about whatever, to watch the news. That'll be way more interesting than maybe going through the grammar exercise and going through the vocabularies. But just think about this this study. And so yeah, willpower leads to success. So a second story and a second experiment. In 1996, a researcher named Roy Baumeister. So there were 67 participants. And then basically a lot of freshly baked chocolate cookies were brought into the room, and they were actually told that a few minutes later they were told that you are not actually eating these cookies, you are actually eating these radishes. So they were obviously very, very disappointed. And then what happened? Have any of you heard of this study? So basically what happened was that they were then given a few puzzles to do, and then what happens was that the group who had to eat the radishes actually gave up doing the puzzles quite soon. And then I forgot to mention there is a control group who were actually given the chance to eat the cookies, and then the cookie eaters were actually did the puzzle just fine. So, and then this and other related studies confirmed that willpower is something that can be depleted. So the willpower that was used to avoid thinking about the cookies and then to eat the radishes actually depleted the willpower. So yeah, this is something that we can think about in terms of language lovers and language learners. So there is really only so much willpower that we can allocate during a day. So we should really think about it. And then, so next, there is a third study about some domestic violence, relationship violence couples. So then the guys were told that they had to use the non-dominant hand. So if they're right-handed, they had to use the left hand. If they are left-handed, then they had to use the right hand to open doors. And actually what happened was that 2 weeks later, they then became much less violent. They then became much more tolerable. So actually this study suggests that they have actually built up their willpower, they have actually built up their self-control. And so even a daily, such a simple daily exercise of doing such a task made them have increased their willpower, and that it positively improved their love life and the relationship. So let's conclude the three studies. So willpower leads to success. Willpower can be depleted, and willpower is a muscle. It's like a muscle. It can be trained. So the idea that I want to share is that language learning results, language learning, there is absolutely no secret. It is only about motivation by time on task. So it's just proportional to our motivational level and to the amount of time that we spend on the task. And so in this case, it's language learning. And then the most important thing is to trust the process. So yeah, I want to suggest 7S for us to use so that we can become better language learner. And this is borrowed partly from the model by Tim Ferriss, and then I added something of my own. So step actually is the same case of learning any skill. Is that the step number 1 is to segment, and then is to analyze what are the components of that we need to learn for a particular skill. So in terms of language learning, that would be speaking, that would be writing, reading, and listening. And then for the various topics that we want to master, various situations, various social situations. And then step number 2, another S, is selection. So we pick the 80-20 principles, and then so the idea is that we focus on in a way only do the tasks that yields us the most results. And then the next is sequencing. So there is an effective and optimal sequence to learn a particular language, but then obviously that is different for different people. So for me, when I learn a language, I like to start with Michelle Thomas, and then if it is available for a particular language, followed by memorize Duolingo, followed by Italki lessons, etc. But this is the sequence that work for me. And then next, the fourth, so segment, selection, sequence, And next is to have SMART goals. I'm sure you have heard of this a few times, but let me just repeat it yet again. So to pick a goal which is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timed. So for 2017, I have set 25 SMART goals for myself, and then 10 of which are language learning related. And so for me, I actually want to pick a goal that is clearly measurable. So for example, for me, I want focusing on Dutch this year. So don't have to go in front of me right now, but I want to complete chapter 1 to 10 by the 31st of March 2017. I think to me it is way more effective to say I will improve my language X, or I will become a better language learner, because that is something that is much more measurable. So then the next S is stake. Stake as in accountability. So what I do is that I actually post after listing the 25 SMART goals for 2017. I recorded a video and I posted it on YouTube and posted it on my group, Level Up Challenge, and then also on my main Facebook page to share with the world. These are my intentions for 2017, and then I could follow through with it. And then, yep. And then next, one of my favorite websites for goal setting is called Stick. stickk.com. So for example, in front of me, one of the goals that I had added to Stick was Dutch, to finish Michelle Thomas Foundation by a particular date. I don't see that date. And then I put an amount against my credit card. In this case, I put only $10. For some goals, I put $100. So the idea is that I pick a coach, I pick a referee, and then I say that whether I accomplish the goal at the end of the period, and then if I don't, then the amount will be transferred to either that person, to a charity, or an anti-charity, basically an organization that I disagree with. And so that has worked very well for me. That has accelerated my learning in currently Dutch, and also Egyptian Arabic. I just basically finished the Michelle Thomas Foundation level for Egyptian Arabic. And then the last S is self-experiment. So no matter what tips, what tricks you heard from other people, from other successful polyglots, from other successful language learners, it is wise for you to try it yourself to see if it actually worked for you. And then through the experiments, then you can discover your way, your style. So, yeah, and then, there are a few tools that I like to use to organize my language learning. So I like a tool called Trello, so it helps me visualize the various tasks and various stages of my language learning. And then something that depending on whether there are people interested, one of my favorite coaching model is called the GROW model. To set a goal, and then to explore the reality, and then to explore the options, and then to decide W is for the will, to decide on the course of action. So this is the way that that I use to help me make a decision, and then to come up with a plan. And then as I'm following from a talk that I gave at the Polyglot Gathering 2015, I gave a talk with the same title, How to Become Better Language Learner. And then at work, I'm basically a lean transformation consultant, or lean, well, basically I apply the lean and agile methodology to improve team and personal efficiency. And then I also feel that it can be applied to language learning. So if you search for my name in YouTube, you can see that talk. So I explore how to use the 5 whys, to get to the root cause, to implement systems to increase the efficiency in our language learning. So I believe that language learning is a very great way for personal development. Yeah, so in terms of social, financial, career, relationship, spiritual, and mental. So I will just touch on each area. So, and then some stories from my life, learning languages. So after learning French, well, I started learning French after university. I was working in a French bank in London, and then as a full-time employee, I could learn French for free. So obviously it was a freebie, so I obviously took the offer. And then after learning French for a few years, then I decided that I wanted to improve my French, so I came to live here in Paris. So yeah, basically you just started with my general love of languages, and just French is because of the company that I was working in and that I was working for, and now I'm here in Paris, and then I've had many great experience here in Paris. So another story, I gave myself a little gift of learning Swahili, and then in order to practice Swahili, then I went to Kenya. And then there was lots and lots of wonderful stories from that trip. But one that I remember the most vividly was that one day I saw that 2 kids were fighting. I was actually volunteering in a street kids organization, basically, well, problem kids roaming around in the streets, having family problems and whatnot. And then I was teaching them English, and then I saw them, they were fighting. As I went off the room and I came back, I saw them that they were fighting. But what really touched my heart was when I found out what they were actually fighting for. They were actually fighting for a piece of note that I had, a piece of paper that I used to explain some grammar points. And so yeah, and Japanese I learned, and then went to Japan to practice my Japanese, and then there were lots and lots of some great stories in karate. So yeah, and then in terms of actually financial, sometimes the results may not be immediate, but then actually the rewards will come. For example, currently looking at property investment here in Paris, and because of my French ability, I didn't have to pay for the interpreters and the translators, and then I saved myself thousands and thousands of euros. So those are the main points that I prepared for this talk. Any question, comments from anyone? How do I see if there let me see if okay, so we'll just wait a few minutes to see any questions or answers. Otherwise, I will just conclude with my last point. Okay, so here are my call to action. So number 1, sticktk.com is, I find it a very effective way to set our goals, and so try it. So you can set me as your referee, B Hoy, and yeah, that can be great. And then I am very inspired by the book called The Willpower Instinct. I feel that it is a book that I highly recommend. And then yeah, the most important is self-experiment, and then keep on trying until you get results, and then keep on trying to get even better results. So I wish you all the best in your language learning journey, and hope to see you around in this wonderful community, in this Facebook group. And then yeah, see you guys. So yeah, just hi to people who have commented. Yay, obviously I can't say anything without talking about Team Fairies. Thanks Paulino, thanks Amir, and thanks for all the likes and heart. Without any further questions, then I will just end this talk. Bye guys.